Hi, here I am again with yet another game for Commodore 64 made in BASIC, and as you already know by the title of this video, it's called Invaders and it's a space shooter game. It's not really Space Invaders, it's not Galaxian either, it's something in between, something like Galaxy Invaders 1000, yeah, that's the video that I saw just a few days ago. It's one of those small code games. Actually, until a few days ago it had only 11-12 lines of code, but then the basic 10-liner contest has begun and I needed to shrink my game to 10 lines, and I did. And I'm glad that I did, and I submitted this game to this contest. So instead of my usual GitHub place where I put all my source codes, the code for this game will be available on basic 10-liners contest page, and I will put the link in the description of this video for you to check out. Now, during the time that I was working on my game, Peter from Retro Ramblings channel published video for his game called Petsky Riders 2. Now, that's a Space Invaders clone written in BASIC, also for Commodore 64, and the game looks absolutely fantastic. I especially love those Petsky enemies that he made, and the hit effects, everything just great. So I suggest that you take a look at this video too. Now, the reason why I mentioned this is that both of these games, his and mine, use that scrolling down effect to move enemies on the screen. So I'm kind of glad that this little hack that I published for last Christmas has some real use cases in games, yeah. So, but now let me show you my game, and then we can jump into the code together. Okay, before I actually show you the game, I would like to announce a small experiment here on my channel. Well, you know that during my videos, most of the time I'm down there in the corner in form of small overlaid video. And that fits nicely when I'm working on code and explaining stuff, working at the computer. But that setup is not my permanent setup, and I use my phone to capture that video, so that's not really handy when I'm shooting for a longer period of time. So for some time now I was trying to find a solution for that. And I check all the recommended cameras and setups and stands and whatnot. In the end, I think I found my own solution for this problem. And here it is. And yes, it's a security camera or surveillance camera, whatever you want to call it. It's one of those generic models, but I presume the older model because it has composite output and it works on main voltage and it gives picture like you would expect from security camera, this kind of security cameras. And because I don't actually own some modern quality video capture card, I will use TV tuner cards, and those cards used to have composite inputs. So yeah, I will give it a try, experiment with this little camera, and I guess that from now on there will be full retro on this channel. Yeah. Now back to the game. And here I am with my new camera and my new setup. I don't know is it any better or worse, but it's certainly easier for me to shoot this video. And what I didn't have before, but I certainly do now, is interlacing. Yeah, look at that. Well, it's full retro from now on. Yeah, okay, now let's go back to the game. Okay, so this is the code for the game, and let's run it and see how the game looks like. And here we go. So the goal of the game is to kill as much as enemies as you can without dying, actually. Yeah. And the goal is, of course, to kill the enemies, and you have limited amount of time, and time is represented by this line in top of the screen. Once it reaches the border, the game over. You run out of time. And what I intended to do with this game, and I think I succeeded, if you notice, the player's ship is not moving one step at a time. It's in constant move. So what I wanted to do with this kind of behavior is to give a little bit more dynamic to the game. So the only thing that you're actually controlling is the direction of the ship. So the ship is constantly moving, and if your ship hits a border, it will just bounce back. So what you actually can do is, if you feel lucky, I don't feel lucky here, just let it move on autoplay and just make shots and kill the enemies. That's the bad strategy. Okay, it's better too. And yeah, bloody hell, I don't know how to play my own game. And there are kind of difficulties in this game. First one is, of course, large number of enemies on the screen. And if you got hit by the enemy, you simply died, as you can see here. The other one, if you miss, if your shot misses the target, misses the enemy's ship, so you're going to lose a lot of time, and you will not able to make good score. So you have to be precise during the shooting, and it's not very easy because your ship is in constant movement. So yeah. And the other thing that was kind of interesting to me, there is I kind of spend a lot of time trying to find a good pesky character for the enemies. So depending on the character, how it looks like, for instance, the hash character or asterisk or something like that, it's all fine. You can see that those are kind of enemies or whatever, but they are much easier to hit than this pesky character or letter V, because V is some kind of a little bit narrow, and nothing is actually changed in the game. The space that single character takes on the screen is always the same, no matter what character you display. But I guess psychologically it's more difficult if you have a narrow character. So yeah, that was one way how to tune the difficulty of this game. There is no sound, of course, because this is a 10-liner, and it's simply not possible to implement any kind of sound in there. But yeah. Okay, so, and you can shoot one shot at a time, of course. So if you're not precise, you can lose a lot of time. Yeah, bloody hell. Okay, we got lucky. Okay. So and we are going to run out of time, I guess. Yeah, time out. So this is our code, and as you can see, it's heavily abbreviated just to fit those 10 lines of code. And what I'm going to do a little bit differently in this video is I'm not going to go through each line of the code, and that's because there is a page on the basic 10-liner contest with my game, where you have everything explained, and what's most important, you have line-by-line code overview where I describe what's happening in each line of the code, and also here you can download the game or write your comment. I will place that link into the description of this video. But what I'm going to do now, just to show you some interesting parts of the game, some problems and solutions that I implemented here, and maybe you will find them helpful yeah, for yourself. Okay, so just quickly, line number 0, clear the screen and define some variables that are used in the game. Line number 1, the only important thing is initializing this scrolling down routine. Line number 2 is where the enemies are generated, so they're always generated in the same line on the screen, on top of the screen. And then on the random X position, or random column, and immediately after that I call this scroll down routine, so to shift the whole screen down by one line. And after that I need to recreate the player ship and the player shot if shooting is in process. But before that I need to check whether the player is going to collide with the enemy or shot is going to destroy the enemy. So that's the reason why we have some peaks here. This all together is producing that little flickering that you could notice with the player ship. Okay, so what's interesting here is this line number 5, where I read the key from the keyboard and checking whether the key is pressed or not. And in the same line I check whether the ship has hit the left or right border, and then changing direction immediately. So yeah, that all fit in one line. And possibly we could change this line 5, because I used key 1 to go left, to change direction to the left, and key 9 to change direction to the right. It is possible to change this and use just one key, because we only have 2 directions. If we are going to left, then whatever we press, we switch to opposite direction, and that should solve everything, except this variable d is not defined anywhere. So what this means is that at the beginning of the game the player ship is stationary, so the d is 0. And maybe I could do this a little bit differently if there is room here to define variable d to some random position, or always left or always right, whatever. And then we could do something like this, and instead of using 2 keys to move left and right, we could use just one key. Let's say that we choose key number 0, and then if I multiply this by d, in that case this will become, in case that we press a key, this will become negative. Multiplied by current direction, we'll just switch the sign of that. If it's 1, it's going to become -1, and vice versa. But for that to work, I need to have initialized d either 1 or -1 at the beginning, and here there is no more room to do that. So yeah, that's a little bit awkward, but yeah, okay, that's about it. So the one interesting part that I want to show you, one interesting thing is, if you take a look at this line number 8, well, you can see a very simple if statement. So this is if, this is then, and this is what will happen in case that our condition is true. So the problem with this is, not with this, but with the basic 2.0, is that we don't have else code. So we have the if then, and then we are missing the else part. And so what that means, when you try to compact your code, this part of the line, you cannot use it for anything else except inside the if statement. The only thing that you can do is shift everything right and then use this part of the line, but sometimes that's not possible because if statement must be executed before. And so what that means is that it's really difficult to combine if statements, and this way of programming where you need to compact everything in a single line. So there is a way to achieve this if then else statement. It's not really if then else, but almost. So I use that technique in several places in game. You can notice it here. It's on GOTO command, and I use it here, and I use it here and here as well. And I will explain that in this example right here. So this is on GOTO command. Okay, and this is just print, and this is end. Okay, now on GOTO command, it doesn't actually take the condition, it takes the index. So this here should be the index, and depending on the index, the on GOTO command will jump on certain line. So let's say that we have 10, 20, 30, 3 lines. So on if we have index 1, it will jump on line number 10. If here is index 2, it will jump to line number 20, and 3 will jump to line number 30, and so on and so on. But we can use this in our favor. So you see that here I don't have just my condition, I have something with the brackets and a minus. So what this means is next. So if my condition is true, this will become -1, and -1 and -1 will give us, of course, 1. And so that means that if this if my condition here is true, this should give me index of 1. Index 1 will jump to line number 2, because there is only one line defined here where to go to. And okay, that's fine. So what happens with the rest of the line, with the rest of this code? Well, this code will execute only if this statement is false. So if my condition here is false, it will become 0, and -0 is 0, and this on GOTO statement will not get executed. It will jump. It will not jump to line number 2, but it will continue to execute the line. So that means that this part here is our else part of that so-called if then else command. And the only problem is that this then part, this commands that should execute when our condition is true, it cannot be written directly inside the line. You have to combine it and write it on some other line. So you need to use this GOTO command to jump on certain line. But it is very, very useful, and as you can see, I use it multiple times because without that there is no way to compact everything so nicely in the single line of code. So you see here, for example, this means that if we are checking the variable g, and g represents the timer in the game. So if we still have time, we will jump to line number 2. That means that our main cycle of the game is repeating again. If this is not the true, the game will end because this part will be executed, and that means that it will just print timeout and end the game. So yeah, so that's something that I wanted to show you, and that's basically it. That's the whole game. There is nothing special inside here. yeah, that's about it. Now let's try to play this game a little bit more. Yeah, and here we go, one more time. So yeah, up. Yeah, so this is all that I have for you today, and until next time, goodbye. Let's go. Bloody hell. Oh, I got one. Interlacing